I'm Brian with Oregon River Rentals, here with John Loehrer, who is an organizer on the website meetup.com. He organized the meetup group Kayak the Sandy, and we just finished running a run of the Sandy River from Revenue Bridge down to Dodge Park. So John, what did you think about the run? What are some of the highlights?
Right. Well, to start off, you've got a really steep put in. So one of the tricks about the run is knowing where to park along the river. So you drive up to Revenue Bridge, which you can find on Google Maps and other places, and then you go down the downriver side of the bridge on one side, and you'll see a steep trail. So be really careful. Once you get down towards the water, there are a few flat spots, and then you put in. Right away, you're immediately struck by the beauty of the place. You're standing under a bridge, but you're standing in beautiful nature. There's moss-covered big boulders, and the water's rushing by. So even the start of the trip is almost just magical, right from the start. You get in the water, and you're just kind of bobbing along for a little while. I mean, it looks a little bit like this is maybe a little bit narrower. This is the takeout spot, but you're gradually starting to hit some rapids as you're going along, and they're class 2 rapids, so they're just kind of warming you up, getting you psychologically ready to get splashed in the face by a bigger rapid.
It seemed like in the middle of the run it started to get a little bit bigger.
Yeah, so you'll notice that it's a pool drop progression, which means basically you'll hit a rapid and then it'll flatten out. But if you start looking behind you, you realize, boy, you're really starting to drop down some steeper drops. The rapids are getting bigger and bigger, and depending on flow too. I mean, if you're going in April, May, the water is a lot bigger. As it progresses through the summer, you're getting to more technical water, which basically means that if you don't pick the right route, you can wedge your boat into a rock or things like that. So you've got to be really selective. And as you can see, the Sandy River is very rocky. So you do need to be able to be in good control of your boat at all times when you're moving down through this section. That said, there's nothing that's too scary or too frightening, but there is some big waves, right?
Yeah, there's some big waves. You get a little bit wet. Those class 3s are pretty much class 3s, solid class 3s, I would say.
Yeah.
Pretty good waves. A lot of rocks to maneuver around. What's the flow right now? Do you know?
Yeah, I checked last night, and it was around 1,700 cubic feet per second. And you can check on USGS. If you search USGS Sandy River Bull Run, those keywords usually turn up a website, and it'll give you a graph of the river and something called cubic feet per second. And if you ever get into a serious whitewater running, it's a good thing to know what that means. Now, by itself, cubic feet per second doesn't mean a whole lot. The Columbia River, for example, is something like 500,000 cubic feet per second, but it's flat as a mill pond because it's really, really wide. So you've got to judge cubic feet per second combined with how wide the river is, and get some kind of bearing on, at this flow, what is it? What's
the optimal run?
Yeah, right, exactly. And there are a lot of websites that will tell you what's a good minimum and maximum flow. There's
actually a link from our website, OregonRiverRentals.com, that has a link to a map that has the optimum flow chart of all the local rivers here.
That's a great resource, and I always recommend before heading out on the river to check something like that, because, like for example, I've run it at 10,000 cubic feet per second along here, and it is rip-roaring. The current is just insane. You probably don't, that's almost flood levels, so you probably don't want to be out here in those kind of conditions. So it really also depends on the run though. The section from Oxbow to Dabney at 10,000 cubic feet per second is really fast but really flat. Up here at 10,000 cubic feet per second, it is rip-roaring. There are some huge waves, some big holes.
So as far as the experience needed to run this section from Revenue Bridge to Dodge, do you think an intermediate paddler?
Right. So as you're progressing, a good benchmark is how confident and how comfortable do you feel if you're doing the MacGyver Park run down to Barton and Carver. If you run through some of those rapids at higher flows and you're feeling pretty confident, like, oh, this is easy, I'm feeling pretty good in my boat, pretty secure in my boat, then you might start thinking about trying some of these runs. go with a friend, with somebody who's gone on this route before, because last time I ran with a friend who's a competent boater, had been boating for about 5 years, and some of these rapids caught him by surprise, you know, so you have to be on your A game. But that said, most of them are pretty benign. Like I said, it's pool drop, so if you get knocked out in a big wave or get washed into a big hole and flushed out, most likely you're going to have a good chance of recovering your boat and getting your paddle back, which is an important thing. Or your friends, if they're along, will be able to help you, and that's always key.
Yeah. And this run took us about an hour or so?
Yeah, a little bit over an hour. So yeah, plan about an hour and a half. Depends on flow, how fast it goes. That's about right.
I think you're right exactly with if you're very comfortable with the Barton to Carver run on the Clackamas River, I think this will be the next step up in your progression as far as paddling. So.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of fun too.
Yeah,
so.
Blast. Beautiful scenery, great
amazing.
rapids.
Amazing.
Yeah, really great time.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
And there are a lot of fishermen along the way too. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Last time I was there, somebody held up a big steelhead, so that was cool.
Yeah, very good. Well, thanks a lot, John. Appreciate your time.